Good morning, gang. Happy Thursday. Day 8 into the craziness of what's going on over in Ukraine. I want to give you a little perspective this morning, something to think about here. Okay. Now, as preppers, we talk all the time about, oh, what if an EMP hits? Or, how can we still have heat, light, water, food, whatever it would be? Okay. And certainly. The one thing that we really don't talk about and is very difficult to prep for is actually what's going on in the world right now. And I talk about this all the time, is there's a hurricane, there's a flood, there's a fire, there's a tornado, whatever it is, learn from it. Now, I want you to imagine something for a second. And sure, there might be a little bit of a stretch here, but not that much. Okay. Imagine you live in Canada. For Canadians, imagine your regular life, okay? And all of a sudden, this large, more powerful nation that's right next door that you share a common language with, a lot of people speak the same language, some speak different, okay? Ukrainian to Russian versus English to French, all of a sudden rolls in with tanks and artillery and gunships and sorties, you name it. What do you do? This is exactly what's going on in Ukraine right now, which, not between the United States and Canada, per se, but certainly, if anything got worse, the Chinese come over the border from Canada. We know they're there. The Russians come over the border from Central America. We know they're there. Okay. This is possible. Think about it. A week ago, the people in Ukraine woke up to all hell breaking loose. And people say, oh, they had advance warning. Well, yeah, right. Okay, there's been a war going on in eastern Ukraine for the better part of 8 years. All right. So, they have about as dealing with that as much as, we dealt with what was going on in Afghanistan or something like that. It was an afterthought after a while. Okay. It was just, oh, that's part of normal life. But all of a sudden, one morning, they woke up and there were bombs coming down. There were tanks rolling into town. How do you deal with that? None of us have the ability to go out and buy a operable tank, okay, to fight back. Okay. We certainly can't have mortars and artillery, and hell, we can't even have hand grenades and automatic weapons, okay? So we are certainly outgunned. And all of us who say, gee, I've got my ARs and everything like that, good, okay? But remember, you're fighting with one arm tied behind your back, if not both, okay? Maybe you're pulling the trigger with your nose in an equivalence. This is the reality of what is going on over there. We see the pictures. I mean, again, there's tons of stuff that's faked and everything like that. But the one thing that hasn't been faked is the fact that you have a lot of Ukrainians living in the metro stations. For those of you that don't know, metro is what they call the subway over there, okay? And obviously, I've been in the former Soviet Union subways. They are extremely deep, guys. Okay, you are taking a long escalator down. They're a couple of floors deep. They're not just, 10 feet underground. I mean, they're 50 feet underground. They're deep. But the people are living down there. What bomb shelter do you have? We don't have a whole lot of subways in the United States. And if we do, they certainly aren't hardened for nuclear war. All right. That's part of what the Soviet Union built the metro stations for, guys, is as a bomb shelter for the people. That's why they're so deep. That's why they're hardened, et cetera, et cetera. got dual use out of them. But this is where people are living. Should any craziness happen in Australia, Germany, Great Britain, I can't speak for the tube system. I don't know how hardened it is, okay? The United States, Canada, wherever you are, what are your plans? I mean, this is going to be a whole lot more than Red Dawn, where you have a bunch of paratroopers come in with rifles and, woohoo, look how fun this is. We're going to go pop out of little holes in the ground and go bang, 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 and we're going to shoot the bad guys. Right. Okay. Great entertainment, not real great reality. Anybody ever think how they dug those holes? Those are little things here. It's not like those were pre-positioned defense positions for Patrick Swayze and the gang to use to take out invading forces. So apparently they were able to get in there and dig holes that were 6 feet deep, without anybody ever noticing them. Okay. Just food for thought, Momentary suspension of disbelief is what it's called. But what are your plans? If you're in the city, you look at, give you this, if something happened, if all of a sudden there was an alert that an ICBM was launched, and let's say even launched from Russia, so it's going to take a half an hour to get here, okay, not one of these supersonic missiles. Can you imagine trying to get out of a city in a half an hour? Forget it. Okay, not happening. I mean, you may get to the end of your street. I mean, some of these movies or whatever that you see with cars backed up all over the place. What was it? The Road, I think it was, or maybe it was Book of Eli. I don't remember what it was, where they're crawling over cars and stuff like that. I mean, that's literally what's going to happen. There's just going to be dead bodies everywhere. If something happens, if you're one of the lucky survivors. Start to think about what you can do, where you can go, how you can save yourself if an invasion happens, especially if you're in a metropolitan area. We all have preps, food, weaponry, etc., etc., etc. Those are gone in that scenario, guys. If you could have closets full of food and everything, water, Berkeys, and you name it, gone. All those people in the subway that are in Ukraine right now, if they had any preparations, they're gone. Okay, they're down in the subway. They can't. Hey, honey, I'm going to go run back upstairs to the apartment here real quick and get us dinner. Sure, that's going to happen. So, this is where you think, okay, I've got my bug out bag. Sure, where do we go? Okay, but what's in it? I mean, in your bob, you have food for a couple of days. I mean, basically starvation rations, a couple of cans of tuna fish, or maybe a couple of packets of peanut butter or something like that. I mean, a little something, not going to get you anywhere. These are things to look at and think about with scenarios that are going on right now. We don't know how far this is going to go. It was briefly mentioned yesterday, maybe even by accident, by one of the military commanders. I forget exactly who it was in Russia, showing a map. Maybe it was Sergei Lavrov. I'm not sure. Maybe it was the UN or whatever. I saw it, but I don't remember who said it. Showing a map which basically showed that Moldova was the next target. Okay. Start moving from country to country. Who does this remind you of? I don't know. Go back about 80 years. Maybe you figure that one out. This isn't ending anytime soon. The Russians have now entered Kherson, and if they can take that over, now they've got a direct path to Odessa. Okay, so now they're coming up the entire southern flank. We all know about this 40-mile-long convoy they've got ready to go into Kyiv. What happens? This is not over, and all these talks about peace talks and ceasefires and everything like that, they're all great, okay? Of course those talks are going to happen. You're a week into something like that. They're not going, oh, this is a mistake, we aren't going to do it anymore. Okay, no. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll cease fire when you completely give up all the land and that's it. Otherwise, we're going to keep going. That's pretty much how the talks are going right now. So, use this as a learning experience, a thinking experience. What can you do? What are your plans? I mean, you know me, I've said many times, there's 2 reasons I'm leaving. The Chinese come over the hill or the forest goes on fire. What if the Chinese come over the hill? I mean, that's literally what it is. And it's not, a platoon of guys with AKs. I'm talking about, what if you have a battalion of tanks rumbling down your street, or, a flight of gunships, or, a bombing sortie come down over your town. What do you do? Where do you go? For some of us, that could just mean grab our ankles and kiss our ass goodbye. But this is important stuff to think about, because if this does get worse, if Russia continues through Ukraine and does go into Moldova, forget it. It's World War III. Okay, that's the end of it. We don't even know, this could be it anyway if they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because eventually you're going to wind up with foreign troops somewhere. Something's going to go wrong, and Polish troops are going to get hit, maybe in the border of Poland or Romanian or whatever would be as they roll on through. And that's going to piss people off. I mean, we've all said many times, all it takes is one spark to set off the fire. This is a big spark, but it could get a whole hell of a lot bigger. And you all know China's just sitting on the sidelines watching, going, this is how the world reacted to Russia going into Ukraine. How's the world going to react to us going into Taiwan? Because you know damn well they're going to do it. So China's looking at this as, all right, the world will slap sanctions on us. Fine, we've already stored a ton of food. We've already got this taken care of. Then we'll shut off the world's manufacturing. Gee, we'll shut off the world's drug supply, pharmaceuticals, and watch them freak out. This is serious, guys. A lot of people have said, oh, gee, why do we even worry about this? This is over in Europe. It's their problem. To fight it, maybe somewhat. But for us as a country, as an individual, to pay attention to us, this is going to seriously affect us all. I mean, this is the beginning of Cold War II, if not potentially what could be World War III. We don't know. But don't by any means rest on your laurels and think, it's not something I have to worry about. I can just go back to my normal day. You want to become a normie, then do it. But, a lot of prepping is thinking ahead. And this is something that we need to watch and think and put all our collective heads together and go, what if? What if they're not happy with just taking over Romania? What if, the next step is Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, which were part of the Soviet Union. Okay? Those are NATO countries. What if Russia decides, hey, we're going into Finland? What if Russia wants to put the Eastern Bloc back together and goes after Poland, goes after the Slovak Republic, Slovakia, goes after the Czech Republic, Czechia? What if they want to take part of Germany back again, East Germany? What if all this happens, guys? It's possible. Today, at March 3rd, I wouldn't say it's probable, but it's certainly possible. The other what if is what happens in Russia. In about a week or so, the Russians are really going to start feeling the sanctions. When the ruble keeps going higher and higher and higher, and all of a sudden food starts turning into Soviet Union rations again. Gee, we can get bread, we can get the basics. But when all of a sudden they can't get the healthier foods or whatever, you're going to see more uprising in Russia. Not that there's a real good chance of anybody getting to Putin, but like I said yesterday, when you have the FSB tipping off Ukrainian intelligence, you know there are generals that don't agree with this. What happens? Because this is Putin's war. This is not Russia's war. I will tell you guys that. Sure, just like in the United States, there's plenty of people that support or against war efforts. No problem. You have the same thing in Russia. Plenty of people for and against. So pay attention to all of this that's going on, but start thinking about what if something like this comes here? Because every day it gets a little closer. It may not be tanks rolling through the streets yet, but that could be a possibility. Missiles raining down on you. Look at the response time that the folks had in Ukraine. Not a whole lot. Look at the response you get. Gee, you get a half an hour. Woohoo, what can you do in a half an hour? Figure that one out. Happy Thursday. Pinball out.